Hello YouTube, welcome back to a brand new video. This is the America First Pill channel. So I want to discuss about how this over-obsession with Israel is just destroying this country. And it's actually destroying the Republican Party. And I do think it's actually hurting Jews, actually. And I say that because there's a lot of Jews who don't really care much about Israel in this country. But a lot of this Israel-obsessed crowd largely comes from the online sector. It's in your face. I say normies, and normies are people who are often not really heavily online and all that. And for the most part, and X isn't real life, they don't really care much about Israel. They just don't. And I think the young people is often kind of this idea that the online sector is pushing is if Republicans, whichever party runs an anti-Israel platform means they will win in 2026 and 2028. And it's ridiculous thinking. It's so ridiculous. And let's be quite frank, Israel's the last thing I care about on the bottom of the issue. It's like bottom of the issue. So personally, if a candidate was a Republican and he ran into Israel, I wouldn't care much because it's not my biggest issue. Okay? But that's if that were to happen. But, I asked a good friend of mine about this, and I asked what the Republican Party should do to combat, to not turn off, what's a moderate position that, you're not so anti-Israel that you turn off evangelicals that you do need, but you also aren't so pro-Israel that you chase away that faction. What's a way that you can somewhat keep Israel an ally without being overly obsessed? I think the mainstream opinion is that Israel has a lot of influence, or Israeli lobbying efforts has a lot of influence over our politics, and people are kind of burnt out by that. And these are people that are not even anti-Israel at all. It's an obvious observation. I do think it's fair to understand that Israel, while you can not like that Israel has influence, they're not the only country that does. And Israel shouldn't be treated like it's the biggest threat to America. Because let's face it, I think the biggest threat to America is our own government. Because they don't even think about us or care about what Americans care about. And talk about the Uniparty. So anyway, when I talked to the friend with that, and I asked that question, the answer was why is Israel the front and center topic right now? At all. Why is that suddenly the front and center? Because in 2024, we didn't really vote about how pro-Israel or how anti-Israel we were. The only thing we voted for Trump is that he would, end the war in Gaza and would end that conflict with Israel and Gaza, right? That's the only thing we voted for because, Biden started that war with how weak he was. So that's kind of where something to think about. Why is Israel the front and center? Why has this become like the one issue suddenly? And where is it coming from? I think it's coming from grifters. It's coming from online influencers. People who are have a hard time staying offline see that propaganda. And I think what's upsetting me with all this, I can see the tension, how uncomfortable people are on this topic, regardless of the side. And, you know, you're either too anti-Israel, and you can't please any side. You're either too anti-Israel for one, or you're too pro-Israel for the other. And that's a dangerous sentiment. No, I'm not a fan of AIPAC. I think their interests are not of America, and I think they're loyal to a foreign nation. Israel, Zionist Jews are loyal to Israel, and they're more nationalist to Israel. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that that's the biggest threat right now, because it's not our fault, their fault, that our politicians, our Congress is so beholden to special interest. It's all because of money. And I think deep down, this conflict's not even about Israel. It's about Israel's used as the symbol of what you call swampy politics. Because once Trump leaves, no matter what, they want to go back to business as usual. They want to go back to war profit and endless wars, and so I don't know. So yeah, so why is Israel be so front and center? It's because of influencers. Again, that's why. And the influencers that I see here are extreme on both sides. You have the unapologetic Israel loyalists who think Israel can do no wrong, and if you criticize, they call you a Jew hater. Or if you believe that Jesus, fulfilled the old covenant, where in the new covenant now, but they'll accuse you of believing in church replacement theory. So a lot of labeling. And then you have the other side who's so anti-Israel that they'll blame literally Israel for everything and won't even look the other side. So Muslims are a problem in the West. They're a problem. They do harass Israel. They do send proxies to, like I said in my last video, Iran's not anti-Israel. They are. But I also think there's people on the anti-Israel side that will just pretend that Islam isn't a problem and that they're the only threat. So and I think what's happening is that both sides have what I call both sides live in the same lens with this, because right now it's the most toxic faction or group right now in America. To me, is the overly pro-Israel side and the unapologetically anti-Israel side. And to clarify, what do I mean by overly pro-Israel side? It means basically Israel can do no wrong, and if you criticize, you're a Jew hater. If you point out something you don't agree with, that's what upsets me. And they both live in the same worldview. One thinks they both think everything's about Jews. One's ethno-narcissists, because some believe Jews are more superior than Gentiles because they're seen as the God's chosen people. I've met some people who believe that Jews rejected Christ, but God still has a little bit more of a feeling towards Jews anyways. That we're just adopted. He just adopted the Gentiles. Which to me is kind of supremacist. Because we're all equal in God. At least I thought. That's what I grew up always believing. That's what I believe. That we're all one in Christ. And then you have the other side that's just, again, everything's Jews' fault. So it's all they both think everything's about Jews. And that's just, it's a bad worldview to have. And I do believe it actually does create actual anti-Semitism. So I do think both factions are creating real anti-Semitism. And that's a problem if this does not change. Because right now they're trying to make this a one issue. They made this suddenly issue so front center that they're paving a road for people that are anti-Israel to get so ticked off at one side they're going to vote against each other. This is not good, people. So, for example, look at all the candidates that people hate and like or whatever. If Marco Rubio runs for president, he's seen as the pro-Israel candidate. The anti-Israel side won't vote for him. If you have someone like Tucker Carlson, let's say he runs for president, he's too anti-Israel for a lot of people, and they won't, and the pro-Israel side won't vote for him. And then you have J.D. Vance, which some argue that, and funny thing is, J.D. Vance ticks off both factions because he's not overly pro-Israel, and he's not anti-Israel either. He's actually kind of moderate on the issue, which is kind of what I'm looking for. Someone who's not obsessed with either factions. And he ticks both people off. Which, unfortunately, I've heard Vance is thinking about not running, which is actually sad because I hope he runs because I think he's still our best shot right now. I think he's the one that can unite people on that issue without, and that's the problem. So that's a problem. So we're making this a one issue voter. One side's going to not vote for that. And we're making, and where does this come from? It's dangerous, people. And Democrats are at the worst state they could ever be in. And right now, the Republican Party, as well as the grifters, the influencers, and those believing this nonsense, are playing right into the hands of the left and are risking it all. I don't agree with everything Trump's doing on this, obviously. I think I blame Congress more than him. That's why I'm not going to become a never Trumper, or I'm going to be a Trump hater, because it's not all his fault. Trump actually has proposed great domestic policy. It's Congress that's the problem. And quite frankly, you can say Trump's too pro-Israel, whatever, but actually Trump has actually stood up to Israel quite a bit. And actually, he's actually not a fan of Bibi Netanyahu. So, while the other people in Congress love him. So anyway, I made this video because I'm frustrated at this ridiculousness, because we lost the plot. We're playing into the hands of the left. We're like the Greeks right now. We're fighting amongst ourselves over a country of 9 million. I thought, and it's interesting enough, the more anti-Israel side will say Israel's an insignificant country of 9 million. Yeah, so why are we obsessed with Israel? They're 9 million people. It's the size of New Jersey. It has a smaller GDP. It's said to be insignificant. So why are we obsessed over that? If anything that's an issue with Israel, I don't think it's Israel itself. It's the lobbyists here that's the problem. People who have dual loyalty to another nation. That's the problem. And I read this video that, that the people in the CDC that almost everyone in the CDC had dual loyal, or was it the FDA? People who, that during COVID-19, they have dual citizenship in Israel. That's what someone told me, at least. And I think one of the former CIA directors had dual citizenship, which I think dual citizenship in all cases. Ilhan Omar, I'm sure, has dual citizenship in Somalia. That should all be removed. You're loyal to America or you're not. You can't serve in another military. You cannot serve in another in intelligence agencies. It's ridiculous. It's common sense. You can't serve two masters. And I can tell the tension because people are too, like, people who don't care, you can tell it's causing tension. I can see the Christian churches are fighting each other right now over this. You're having really good friends that are kind of butting heads over this issue. If you have a disagreement, it's really a problem, and it's becoming the new COVID. I voted for immigration reform. Mass, deporting these people who don't belong here. Whatever, I don't care really how it's done, but do it. I've heard some rumors that Trump's kind of backing down on that. I don't know. I don't know what that means. But I know Trump has always prioritized the criminals, which was always his priority. But I do think he needs to push more. But immigration, the economy, ending wokeism, this woke crap. That's what we voted for. We didn't vote for how pro-Israel, what's our loyalty to Israel or not. It's ridiculous. So anyway, I just needed a rant about that, but this is getting, it's a problem for both sides. So I'd say for those, regardless of where you lean on one side, if you sympathize more with Israel or not with Israel, be real careful about getting too extreme on either side one way or another, and still try to get the truth as well, and don't think one side is totally illegitimate from criticism and can do no wrong. That's the problem that we're having right now. So anyway, that's all I have for today. Let me know what you think. So the question is, where is this obsession with Israel coming from? So let me know down below what you think. And if you like this channel, please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. The America First Pill channel out.